you ever go somewhere and feel like you're being watched? Not by people, but by the woods. Like the trees have eyes, and the wind is whispering secrets just out of reach. That's the feeling I had the moment we arrived at Black Hollow Forest. It was early October, 2013. A crisp chill hung in the Virginia air, and the forest was ablaze in orange and red leaves. There were 4 of us: me, Lucas, Taylor, and Aaron. Seniors in college, all eager for one last camping trip before we scattered to the winds of adult life. We picked Black Hollow because it was secluded, off-grid, and stunning. The kind of place you imagined when you thought of pure wilderness. But what we didn't realize was that it had a history, one we should have never ignored. The first strange sign was the tree. About 30 feet from our campsite, we found a massive oak with deep claw marks carved into its bark. I joked it was a bear. Lucas laughed, but Aaron, he went quiet. "This looks human," he mumbled, his fingers brushing the grooves as if he could feel the fear etched into them. I brushed it off, trying not to feed the unease blooming in my chest. Later that evening, we were sitting around the campfire. The light crackled warmly, casting dancing shadows on the tents. Taylor, the history buff, brought up a local legend, a man named Mark Delaney, who went missing in these woods back in 2012. Camped here, alone, never came back. The only thing they found? Claw marks on his tent and a message scratched into a tree. He never left. I laughed it off. But deep down, I felt something twist in my stomach. The forest was too quiet, too still. And the deeper night fell, the more I felt like we weren't alone. That first night, I didn't sleep well. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of branches snapping in the woods. At first, I figured it was an animal, maybe a deer. But then came the whisper, "Help me, still here." It was faint, almost like the wind was carrying it, but I heard it, clear as day. My blood ran cold. I sat up, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I held my breath, listening for more, but the whisper was gone. I thought maybe I was dreaming. The next morning, I told the guys. Taylor laughed, brushing it off as campfire paranoia. But Aaron looked pale. He said he had a nightmare, someone crawling toward our tent with hollow eyes, whispering his name. He said it didn't feel like a dream. The second night, the whisper returned, but louder, closer. It came from different directions, circling the camp. Lucas grabbed a flashlight and searched around the perimeter. He came back shaking his head. "Nothing," he said. But I noticed his hands were trembling, and his eyes wouldn't meet ours. And then we saw them. Fresh claw marks, this time on the 10 flaps, from the inside. We checked for signs of an animal or intruder. Nothing, no prints, no tracks, just deep, clean gashes that hadn't been there hours earlier. We were rattled, trying to stay calm, but something about the forest felt off. The shadows were thicker. The silence was almost deafening. Even the birds had stopped singing. The third day, Lucas started acting strange. He barely spoke, barely ate. His eyes looked sunken, haunted. He kept staring into the trees like he was trying to hear something only he could hear. We tried talking to him, but he just nodded or shrugged. That night, after dinner, Lucas stood up suddenly. "I'm going," he said, grabbing a lantern. "Going where?" I asked, alarmed. He looked at me with a mix of fear and certainty. "It said my name last night. It knows me. I need to find it." We tried to stop him. Aaron even grabbed his arm, but Lucas shook him off and walked into the woods, lantern bobbing like a firefly until it vanished behind the trees. We waited. An hour, 2, then sunrise. He never came back. We called search and rescue. They were quick. Teams, drones, dogs. But nothing. It was like Lucas had walked into another dimension. The lead ranger was an older guy. When we mentioned the whispers, his face turned grim. He said we weren't the first. I spent the next night reading everything I could find. Local forums, news archives. Black Hollow wasn't just another forest. It had a reputation, a curse. Dozens of unexplained disappearances dating back over a century. Campers, hunters, hikers, even a park ranger in 1987. All gone without a trace. The common thread? A voice, a whisper, a tree. Then I found the story of the execution ground. Supposedly, the area had once been used during colonial times. Dozens of people were hanged beneath that very oak tree. One man, wrongly accused, cursed the land with his last breath. No rest for me, no peace for thee. And that's when I realized we weren't dealing with a ghost. We were dealing with the land itself. 2 nights after Lucas disappeared, Taylor shook me awake around 3 a.m. He was pale, sweating, eyes wide. I heard him. Lucas. He's out there. He's calling me. I sat up, the air thick and icy in my lungs, and then I heard it. Guys, it's me, Lucas. I'm cold. Please, help. It was his voice, but wrong. Like it had been run through static, slowed down and stretched. It came from all directions, and none. Taylor didn't hesitate. He unzipped the tent and bolted. I tried to follow, but something stopped me. My body felt frozen, like invisible hands were holding me down. My flashlight flickered, then died. I was alone, surrounded by darkness that felt alive. I stayed by the dying fire, too scared to move. And then I saw it. Through the mist, a figure emerged. Lucas, or something wearing his face. But his eyes were wrong. Pitch-black voids. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. And behind him, something bigger. A hulking shadow, shifting, watching. I must have passed out, because when I came to, the sun was up. I ran to the ranger station, panting and incoherent. They followed me back. No Taylor, no tracks. Our tent was shredded, claw marks everywhere. And the tree now had a new message scratched into it. You brought him back. I went home, tried to forget. But I couldn't. Every creak, every static noise, it all brought me back. Then I got an email. Mark Delaney's sister. She had heard I'd been at Black Hollow and wanted to share something. A voicemail Mark left before he disappeared. Something's wrong. I found it. Or it found me. And in the background, help me. Still here. Then came the photo. A family camping trip to Black Hollow in 1997. Mark as a teen, and me, a little boy, maybe 7, standing beside him, smiling. I have no memory of being there. My parents swear we never went to Virginia. But there I was. I never returned to Black Hollow, but I know it followed me. Sometimes I hear it in my dreams, sometimes in the static of my car radio. Once through a baby monitor, soft as breath. Still here. I don't think the forest is haunted. I think it's alive, sentient. A predator that doesn't just eat. It absorbs, learns, follows, and once it touches you, it doesn't let go. I tried warning people, posted on forums, wrote blog posts. Most called me crazy, but a few knew. One even sent a photo, a tree in Oregon, same claw marks, same message. He never left. So if you ever hear a whisper in the woods, no matter how familiar, don't answer it, because if you do, you may never come back. I'm not the type of guy who usually buys into ghost stories. I'm a pretty rational person. Logical. Grounded. I believe in things I can touch, measure, explain. But what happened to me and Jess in the Bitterroot Forest back in the summer of 2018? No explanation fits. We were both feeling burnt out. Jess was juggling grad school and 2 part-time jobs. I was knee-deep in projects that never seemed to end. So we decided on a weekend away, completely off-grid. No phones, no internet, just nature, fresh air, and each other. We picked the Bitterroot Mountains in Montana because it looked peaceful, untouched, a perfect slice of wilderness. Jess found a little side trail online that wasn't on most maps. Some forgotten dirt path that led deeper into the woods. When we got there, it was everything we hoped for. Lush trees, crisp air, and a tiny clearing with a fire ring. It was beautiful, silent, and felt completely our own. That night, as we sipped cheap wine by the campfire, Jess pulled out this weird little brochure she'd picked up from an old wooden rack at a gas station. I don't know why she grabbed it. It was torn, stained, almost unreadable. But inside, in faded ink, it said, "Warning. Strange cries reported in the Bitterroot after midnight. Campers are urged to stay on marked trails and not respond to unfamiliar sounds." Jess laughed, called it hillbilly horror folklore, and tossed it aside. But I kept it, folded it, slipped it into my backpack, just in case. The first night passed uneventfully. Quiet, eerily so. No owls, no crickets, just the occasional crack of twigs in the distance and the slow pop of the fire. I thought it was peaceful. But then, around 2 a.m., I woke up. No nightmare, no sound, just wide awake, staring at the nylon ceiling of our tent. And then I heard it, far off, but sharp. A scream. Not a woman, not a man. Not quite animal either. It was too high-pitched, almost like someone screaming underwater, garbled, strained. My skin prickled. I sat up and strained to listen. Then Jess stirred beside me. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. I paused, said number. Brushed it off as a fox or maybe a coyote. They can sound off sometimes. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a fox. That sound carried something wrong in it, something unnatural. The next morning, the air felt tense. I couldn't explain it. The wind had stopped. The birds never came back. We tried to act normal, joked about making ghost stories by the fire. But Jess kept checking over her shoulder, and I kept glancing into the woods, half expecting to see something just standing there. We shrugged it off, but neither of us could shake that feeling. That second night, everything escalated. We didn't build a big fire, just enough light to keep the dark from swallowing us whole. We sat closer together, ate quietly, no wine this time. At 2:46 a.m., I woke up to something brushing against the side of the tent. Not wind, not an animal scurrying by. Something was dragging, a slow scrape, like fingers across canvas. I held my breath. Then it stopped. Then came the footsteps. Slow, heavy steps circling the tent. Deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch through pine needles. I grabbed the flashlight and unzipped the flap in a panic. Nothing. Just the trees, still and unmoving. Jess was pale. I told her it was probably a deer, but deer don't circle campsites, and they don't scream like that. That scream came again. Same as before, but closer. Much closer. It echoed off the trees, bounced around like it was coming from every direction at once. Jess held my hand so tightly, her fingernails dug into my skin. Then came silence. Not peaceful silence. Dead silence. No wind, no fire crackle, no breath from the trees. And the ground beneath our tent was warm, like it had been heated from underneath. By the third night, I needed answers. I brought a camera, a decent DSLR I used for vlogging, and set it up on a tripod facing the tree line and the fire pit. Motion activated, night vision on. I wanted proof, evidence, anything that would make sense of this. Jess was uneasy. She barely spoke all day, said the trees were watching. She wasn't being poetic. She meant it. She felt watched. That night, we didn't even light the fire. We stayed zipped in the tent, whispering, waiting. And just like before, 3:12 a.m. hit. Later, when I checked the footage, it started with nothing. Just trees, faint movement in the wind. Then the fire pit flared up out of nowhere. No one near it, no fuel, just a flash of flame that vanished in seconds. Then in the distance, something moved. It crawled into frame, on all fours. Its skin looked charred, flaky, like it had been through fire. Its limbs were too long and they bent at the wrong angles. It moved like it had broken bones, but didn't care. It crept toward the tent, toward us, and then stopped, right at the edge of the fire pit. Its face wasn't quite human. It had holes where eyes should be, or maybe the darkness just was its eyes. Then it tilted its head, slowly, like it was listening, and looked straight into the camera. Static, the image warped, and the file corrupted. When I opened the SD card, it was literally melted. We left that morning, didn't pack the tent, didn't look back, just ran. For a while, I didn't talk about it, not even to Jess. We both silently agreed to forget, pretend it didn't happen. But weeks later, I couldn't sleep. The screaming echoed in my dreams. I kept waking up at 3:12 a.m., so I started digging. Old missing persons cases, local legends, Bitterroot folklore. Nothing on the mainstream internet, but on page 7 of a cached message board, I found a post from 2009. A guy named MW had gone missing in the same part of the forest. His brother had uploaded photos from their campsite. I froze. It was our campsite. Same fire ring, same crooked log, and next to it, scorched footprints in the dirt, burned into the ground. The brother wrote, "We heard screaming every night." Then Mike vanished. The brochure said not to listen. And then it clicked. The brochure. That stupid faded thing Jess had found. I still had it. And underneath the original warning, there was scribbled handwriting. "This is the invitation. Burn it." Now I burned the brochure, watched it curl, blacken, and vanish into ash in my backyard fire pit. I thought that would be the end of it, but something followed us back. I didn't notice at first, just odd sounds, static on the baby monitor, the feeling of being watched in our apartment. Then, one night, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. again. I walked to the kitchen and saw something outside the window. Footprints, scorched into the concrete of the balcony. No shoe treads, no toes, just burned oval impressions in a perfect arc toward the sliding door. I opened the door and stepped outside. The prints stopped right at the glass. Jess doesn't know. She's 7 months pregnant now. I want to believe we're safe, that whatever we saw stayed in the forest. But sometimes the baby monitor clicks on by itself. And once, I swear, I heard a soft scream on the audio feed. Not loud, just enough to make my heart stop. So if you ever go camping in Bitterroot and find a faded brochure tucked away at a trailhead or gas station, don't read it, don't take it, and for the love of God, don't listen when it screams, because once you hear it, it knows your name.